Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. It's Monday again.
Hi, peeps again. Here we are.
I need to come up with, a new greeting for every Monday. I feel like I'm getting tired of the old Good Monday greeting.
You're just reminding people that it's Monday.
I am. It's not, it's a tough position to be in, honestly, to constantly remind people.
But maybe this is a good part of people's Mondays, though, listening to us.
That's a lovely thought.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Trying to be more positive,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll try that.
Someone wants to.
On this Monday, we're going to talk about mistakes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, and goodness knows we've made some along our path, right? Like individually in my career, plus learning about how to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And still we make mistakes.
As we should. We're not perfect robots. Right?
I was putting together a professional development session having to do with leading change. And part of that, during that session, I'm going to be talking with people about, and remember the people I'm talking to are administrators, leaders in their settings. Yeah. And I'm going to be talking to them about why their staff members find change so hard. And one reason is fear of failure. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to fail, or their perception of failing at what they're doing. And when I mentioned this to Alison, what did you say, Alison?
I said, wait, so we're teaching children that it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you learn. And yet here we are not willing to make a mistake and learn from it.
To which I said, correct.
Correct. That doesn't make sense to me.
There's so many reasons why that is the case, that people are afraid of making mistakes. So many deep reasons. By the time you're an adult, you've been through humiliating situations that you don't want to relive, where something embarrassing happened or you made an embarrassing mistake. And those middle school years, they're brutal. Someone pointed it out.
I want to relive those. Yeah.
Yeah. Just when you're learning about life and should be able to make mistakes about it as you're growing up, you go to middle school, and then that's not good. But I think part of it is how people have reacted to mistakes before. But I think a lot of it is part of our culture growing up. How were your mistakes handled? We teach, as you said, we teach children it's okay to make mistakes, that a classroom, especially an early childhood classroom, should be their safe place to explore, experiment, make mistakes, and try again. They should know that when you make a mistake, we should be teaching them, intentionally teaching them, that when you make a mistake, you can come back from that and you can correct and you can try again. These are the lessons that hopefully they learn in early childhood classrooms, gently, kindly, and with respect for the fact that they're going to take however you treat them and talk to them and internalize it and have feelings about themselves. Unfortunately, we didn't always have generations that understood how to talk to children about their mistakes, how to guide other children not to mock or mimic people who make mistakes. There was just such a lack of guidance around this.
Yeah.
I attended a professional development session as an attendee, and the professor, the doctor who was running this, said something that has stuck with me for a long time. And I often mention it to people that I work with now because it's so true. And frankly, Alison, I don't recall if I've said this during the podcast before, but I'm just going to say it again.
All right.
When you're leading a setting, and I think it's true for us in our personal lives too, you can either have an environment of product and perfection or inquiry and growth, but you can't have both.
I like that quote.
Don't you
And
like
no,
that?
I don't think that you've ever mentioned that. Because I'm in a class now that's learning all about inquiry. Okay.
You
And
can't have both
that's
perfectionism and
100% true.
inquiry and growth. You can't, it's
Yeah,
not going to happen.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
If you're so focused on making it perfect and the product looks a certain way, then you have just taken away all of the inquiry that could happen from it.
Right. And if we're operating from a place of curiosity, inquiry, areas of growth, there are going to be mistakes.
Right.
And we have to stop shaming people for that.
Yeah. Yeah. The class that I'm in now, and you could tell it's a bunch of adults because we're all like, oh, but we want to get the answers. They're like, no, there are no answers, because what's going to happen is you're going to ask a question. And that question, you might have the hypothesis in your head, but it might not be correct. That question, the goal shouldn't be to get the answer. The goal should be to get more questions out of it. So you are constantly questioning.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. So so the goal, now I'm stealing that. So the goal is not to answer the question. The goal is to get more questions.
More questions. And that gets you more, your curiosity about this one topic will just keep going and going and going. This is what scientists do. Scientists never fully always have the answer to the question. It takes them years, if not decades, to get that answer. And that's because they have asked millions of questions along the way to get to that answer.
You know, science is Alison's thing. Science wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Science wasn't my thing. And that explains why this is so revolutionary in my brain right now. I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, that emoji, that like blow your mind emoji, that's kind of what, because I feel like that also relates to project-based learning with young children. You know, we talk about project-based learning and we say that the goal is to help children find answers to their own questions, but actually the goal is to get them to be more curious.
Yes.
The goal is to get them to dive in more. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah. Well, my mind, that's it. We should just probably end right here because I have to figure out what to do with this.
I know. This class on inquiry I'm taking is like phenomenal.
I'm fascinated. We're going to talk more about this. Maybe on the podcast.
Waiting. I know. Like, well, I told you I wanted to do it as a topic, but I wanted to finish the class first. The class ends in August, so I'll know more.
So what we're telling our preschool peeps is we're all in a holding pattern now, waiting for Alison to finish her class.
Basically, just come in every Monday, and then one day we'll talk about that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I agree with what you've said. I also feel like adults, if you want children to understand, and I hope that you do, that making mistakes is okay. We all make mistakes. It's something that's been said to me my whole life, right? When you've made a mistake, to have an adult, even when you were a kid, adults would look at you and say, it's okay, we all make mistakes. But they never really taught us how to embrace mistakes as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that that's part of what's missing.
Yeah, how to move on from that mistake, because I, for a long time, like I'm okay now, but like, and even now, sometimes I get caught up in it. There are times like when I would make a mistake and it would bother me for a very long time.
Right.
Like it would put a hit on my confidence.
Wouldn't you keep kind of replaying it?
Yeah. You would replay it. I would overanalyze it. I would overthink it. If only I had done this instead. And instead of actually be like, okay, I made this mistake, I'm going to try this again, but do it differently because it didn't work the first way, you know, and then learning from that, I would just I would shut down almost and be like, I'm not even going to try. Not even going to try. And I think that's because like when we were growing up, it was like shameful sometimes to make mistakes.
It was. You were, like,
shamed for it instead of being like, no, it's all right. Let's learn from it. What can we do differently? You know, like everybody makes a mistake. It's okay. Instead, it was like, you were punished for it sometimes, you know, and it was, now it kind of sticks with us. That's how
I think you were either,
it becomes your inner dialogue, you know. So
I think people either punished or publicly humiliated kids for a long time.
Shamed you for it. Yeah.
It is part of the problem that I have with those public displays of children's social emotional skills, the who behaved and who didn't display publicly, because we're shaming the children who struggle or make mistakes. That's not the purpose of education, or it shouldn't be. The purpose of education should be to create thinkers and learners.
Yeah.
And there's no
Yeah.
end point to that. There's no end to you are a learner. One of the
Right.
sure signs that someone should stop being an educator is that they feel like they have nothing new to learn.
Yeah. Isn't that true? Right? That is so true. But I feel like there are many people that, because they're afraid to make a mistake, they're now not learning. They're just doing things the way it's always been done, kind of thing, because there's no mistakes. They can do it without making a mistake. You know what I mean? So that makes them feel like they're doing a better job. Maybe, I don't know, rather than trying something new and it not working, which would make them feel like they failed. But then are they really learning if they're doing the same stuff over and over and over again? You know, they're not growing.
Right. You need to have an environment where there's no such thing as failure.
Yeah.
Right. There's no
Yeah.
such thing as failure. There's trying and then needing to adjust or needing
Yeah.
to adapt or needing to
Yeah.
make a change. But there isn't such a thing as failure. You know, when we tell people, oh, why do we love things like project-based learning, Reggio Emilia, Montessori, you know, all these methods where children are following their own curiosity and there is no ultimate failure. They're following their curiosity. Why do we like this? Because all children can succeed in that sort of a system at the level that they're at. You adults, you also can succeed at the level that you're at. And sometimes you need to learn and grow and shift and morph and change. But if you are paralyzed by the fear of failure and the fear of mistakes, then there's no growth.
Yeah.
You know, if I was in the position now in my career that I have been in the past, knowing what I know now, I would be intentionally looking for a place that valued mistakes, that valued trying and succeeding or not, or, you know, trying and adjusting, or, you know, what kind of atmosphere do we want people to be in, and what actually fosters the most for the children? Because in the end, it's about the children in early education and parenting, right? And raising a family.
We talk so often on this podcast about how we should model for the children. And if we are not modeling making mistakes and growing from it, then what are you modeling for these kids? You can't tell them like, yeah, you can make a mistake and grow from it, and then you yourself make a mistake in front of them and totally like shut down from it. What are they learning? They're going to watch you more than listen to your words. Like, you have to put it into action.
You know how many times I've been working with kids and done something and just looked at them and went, okay, this is obviously not working. Even if it's something like gathering them together in a large group and they're just not in the mood. And I will look at kids and say, rather than keep trying to plow through, I'll just look at them and say, this is not working.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we can do.
I do that all the time. If I make a mistake, I tell them like, oh, I made a mistake, but that's okay. Like, I say it out loud, like, it's okay. And then I move on. Like, I don't just like I say that, like, because everybody makes mistakes. Like, even if it was like a little itty bitty mistake, you know, and I tell them all the stuff I'm also not good at. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that, but I'm learning, you know, like I feel like, being very willing to admit when something's not working shows them like, oh, hey, even adults try stuff and it doesn't always work out. Well, we're just going to adjust and pivot and here we go. You know what I mean? And we'll try something new. And that teaches me so much.
I feel like also our fear of failure, as much as we may say to kids, it's okay to make mistakes. It just doesn't, it comes across, your fear of failure comes across. When children make mistakes in a classroom, let's say, and then I'll give a family example. Something's going on in your classroom. It gets very loud, more chaotic than usual. Early childhood classrooms are often very busy, kind of loud places.
Loud.
Gets more chaotic than usual because somebody made a mistake, made an inappropriate decision regarding their behavior. The principal or director is walking by. You feel like you're being judged. your feeling of being judged or that someone's going to perceive that you did something wrong impacts how you react to the children, and it all goes bad from there. And a family example would be like, you're in a store, your child grabs something and knocks down a display.
Yeah.
Your own fear of being perceived as a bad parent, or that you don't have control, or that you weren't watching your child well enough, or your own fear impacts how you react to the child. So what I'm getting to is, whatever situation you're in as a listener to this podcast, your own fear of humiliation, embarrassment, failure impacts how you treat the children. And that's why for generation after generation, this whole I can't make mistakes keeps getting passed down.
Yes.
And keeps impacting people's abilities to morph and change and try new things. There are always people willing to try new things. There are always innovators in every generation, right? Yeah. And people willing to try new things. People willing to try new things and innovators are two different things, but these are people willing to take risk. Yeah. There are always people willing to take risk, but I'm going to just throw out there that there should be more people willing to take risk than we currently see in our society. Not unreasonable risks. Take reasonable risks. Risks that won't impact your health and safety or the health and safety of others. I'm just going to put that out there. Reasonable risks, for others. People. Not mistakes that are going to impact the health and safety of anyone.
Okay.
But risks like a new method for doing something at work, that's worth taking. Risks like trying a new approach with your raising of a family, or you're leading a class, or you're leading a school, it's a risk worth taking as long as no one's going to get hurt.
Right.
And I think there's nothing wrong with saying, I've never done this before. We're going to take a risk. I'm going to do it. Seek the approvals that you need, right? To go to your boss or whoever, or your partner in raising children, and just say, I think we should try this new thing. I think we should take this risk. And if it doesn't work, so be it.
Right. And the only way to know if it works is to do it and try it. Otherwise, you'll never know if it works. You might find this new, great, fabulous method of doing things, but you won't if you've never tried.
I know that people listen to this podcast and think, I love what they're saying. I love those ideas, and I'm scared to try it. Because you've contacted us, some of you, and said, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. I'm hoping that this episode inspires you to be someone who embraces inquiry and growth versus product and perfection, because perfection is poison.
Yes. Well, because it's never going to be perfect enough.
No, because every time you reach a goal, the goalpost moves.
Yep.
You are never going to reach that. So better to embrace growth.
It's unachievable.
It is. Sorry, perfectionists out there.
Right.
And I used to be one of you, so I understand. And I still, my son recently, Alison, Scott recently called me an overachiever. And I said,
he would say that.
Right. I said, I object to the label overachiever because it has a negative connotation. There's a difference between someone who strives to achieve and the negativity of the phrase overachiever.
I feel like overachiever makes it seem like being successful is wrong. And it's not wrong to be successful.
Thank you.
You know,
yes.
Yeah.
And I think especially for women in our society, there's a thing about successful women still in the year 2021. So I said I object. It's very sad. I object to the label overachiever because it has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Someone who strives to do their best.
Why do people think it's wrong to try to do your best?
Understanding that my best is not always great. Totally understanding that. And that's different than perfectionism.
I saw this, one of my friends on Facebook is a therapist. Like
They're the
just
best
graduated
friends,
college.
aren't they?
Yeah. Oh my God. She posted this meme, I guess it's called, whatever. She goes, here's you on your best. Today it's here. Today it's here. Today it's here. Today it's here. Your best on any day is not going to look the same ever. Your best one day might be like you get out of bed and that's the best you can do. And the next day could be like you're flying an airplane somewhere. Like your best should not be compared to anybody else's best, nor should it be compared to your best of yesterday, because every day is different. And I was like, whoa, that totally kind of changed my mind, because I always feel like I have to, like, here's my best and I should be at this level. But it's like, no, like some days it's a struggle just to drive to work. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's my best, and I was like, whoa, that's great. Like, because it's about progress, not about product, I guess. If you make one step forward, that's progress. No matter how small of a step it is, you still went forward. And that's the point.
Right. Wow. So I feel like we've definitely talked about this to death and we can stop, but
we can stop now. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do want to put out there that if you're somebody who's afraid of making mistakes and afraid of failure, we understand why. It's societal. We get why. And what may have happened when you were a child to make you feel that way. And I think that's why a lot of people in our generations have therapists and to help them with that. And I hope that you reflect on this episode and give that some thought, the fact that making mistakes is okay. There should be no such word as failure.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the greatest growth comes from taking that reasonable risk.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. It's worth it if it's going to improve your life, the lives of children who the lives of all the people around you. It's worth it. If you misstep, then adjust. That's when you shimmy. That's when you kind of say, okay, I'm going to shift over here or shift this way, or I'm going to take a look at it and we'll do a little bit of forensics on what I might have done differently that I will try now.
Right.
Well, I'm going to try again and I'm going to do this piece differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because I feel like failure has this like connotation that like, that's the end. I failed, boom, it's like closed. But instead it should open, it should be like, okay, that didn't work. Let's take a different step. Instead of saying you failed, because I feel like your brain, when it hears that, it's like, okay, then we should just stop because we failed.
I rue the day that the F for failure in school became a thing.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be what we do with young children? Shouldn't it be, and then we'll let these people go about their lives on this Monday. Shouldn't it be like that range? You ever see that range on some of the reports where it says the child is progressing? What's the
I think it's mastered. Progressing.
Shouldn't it be progressing?
Yeah.
Growing, progressing, learning.
Yeah.
I feel like these should be the categories, not.
Yeah, I think it's not even mastered. Failure. I think it's proficient or something. Isn't proficient? It's proficient? Like I'm proficient in that. I'm progressing in that.
Listen, if anybody knows good categories, here's what I want you to do. If you know good categories for this that actually should be part of the schools, please do tell us. Go to howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, send us the contact form with that, or connect with us on our Facebook page, How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast on Facebook, and let us know the categories that you think would be great. And just as a parting note, when people go, this generation, they're so afraid of telling kids that they can't do something or they failed. Well, you know what, folks? Maybe it didn't serve us so well to use this phrasing or that methodology.
I want you to think, how do you feel when somebody tells you that?
Every time people say to me, I experienced it and I'm just fine. My response is always, are you though? And they go, wait, what? Are you though? Are you just fine?
You? Because I think the therapist
because you're now fighting
out there
about
because of us.
because now you're fighting with me about phrasing. So are you just fine? I don't know.
Okay, how are you doing?
Right. It's not a matter of we want to coddle the kids. It's a matter of we want to develop a more positive self-esteem. And we're going to leave that right there, because maybe in the future we'll talk about ways to develop a more positive self-esteem through the ways that we treat children when the chips are down and when they're not. So we'll just kind of leave it there and wish you all a good week.
Yeah.
And hopefully you are recommending the podcast to your friends and neighbors and your coworkers. We appreciate that. And we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, go try something new this week, peeps.
Just do it. Do it.
Do it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.